For the very first time here in the Notsam studio, ladies and gentlemen, at one point you knew him as Top Dolla, but even before that, you knew him as what you know him as today. AJ Francis is here. Welcome, man. How are you?
Thanks for having me, man.
Of course.
I'm glad to be down here. You know what I'm saying? You got a dope setup. Can't lie. You know what I'm saying? Big fan of the setup. So, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. And I'm sure that you realize as somebody that's wrestled and played football and stuff, there's something about being an adult and just doing everything you possibly can to surround yourself with everything that you love, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you got a hell of a collection here. We should have came to your house for Most Wanted Treasures.
Okay, all right. I'm glad you brought it up right off the bat. That's Mick Foley's shirt. Okay, from WrestleMania.
Right. Okay.
That's JBL's hat right there. And this stuff is just here, okay? This stuff is just around.
Oh, I like that.
All right. And look, okay, all right. This is like, okay, let's send this to A&E right now, okay? The inside, I feel like I'm on, whoa, we get a quick cut of it. Okay, but the inside here, see how it's kind of stained?
Is it blood?
No, it's whiskey. When he was trying to get CM Punk to drink.
Okay.
And Punk threw the shot in his face. That's the whiskey, so it's even...
That's awesome.
It's even more,
Yeah, that's cool.
Ring used.
That's definitely blood, though.
I think that looks like blood to me. That looks like, I don't know whose blood, but that looks like
wrestling
blood.
memorabilia is the only memorabilia where blood makes it more expensive.
Yeah. You're like, is that real? One of the Matt Tremont, who's a deathmatch wrestler, was down here, and he was like, he just brought DVDs, and one of them, I was like, is there blood on the cover of this DVD? Like, is there are these bloody fingerprints? And he's like, yeah. Oh yeah. I guess that's I didn't even realize that.
Sorry, I just bleed everywhere.
I bleed a lot. So sometimes, all right. Yeah.
I've only ever bled in one match. It was my last match on the Indies before I got to WWE. It was against Alex Ocean. And he told me, he was like, all right, so here's a spot. We got these handcuffs, and he ended up being handcuffed during the match, and he ended up giving me the Seth Rollins curb stomp on a chair while handcuffed. He did his whole comeback handcuff, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
So but during that, like, I put the handcuff on him, and I go to get the other handcuff on him, and he like wriggles away, and now he uses it as like a weapon. And he's supposed to hit me like this, but he hits me like this, and I'm just gushing down the side of my face. And then I was like, is that my blood? Yeah, it's my blood. All right, cool, let's do this.
This is what we're doing now. Yeah. How did you feel? I would imagine even in wrestling,
it was adrenaline, bro.
Yeah.
It was pure adrenaline, because it was like the first thing that I thought of when it happened. I was like, oh, these pictures are gonna look great.
Yes. Yes, that's why you're a wrestler.
And if you look at my, matter of fact, I can just pull it out.
Yeah.
If you look at my laptop right now, the back screen of my laptop currently.
By the way, this is real confidence, the fact that you can just pull your laptop out and show people what's on the screen. A lot of people don't walk around with that kind of confidence.
Well, I'm actually, you're the first person to hear this live on air, but I actually am in the middle of making a documentary about my pro club FIFA gaming team. And so I was working on that on the plane.
Do you think that that's like is that something that maybe, I don't know if it's a professional athlete thing where you realize, because, I think a lot of people don't have the experience of the thing that you were really good at in high school, turning it into a career, like realizing these things that people associate as hobbies can be careers. Like,
so there you go right there.
Oh my gosh, this looks straight up. Yeah, you could even, maybe you should send that to me so I can superimpose it or something. But that looks amazing. That's like real wrestling blood. That's the real deal.
Yeah, and the good thing about being bald is there's no hair to hide the blood.
Yeah, although
it's just running.
I saw it. Don't let them know in GCW that you bleed, because otherwise it's going to change what happens WrestleMania weekend, I think.
Well, I'm all for blood.
Yeah.
But that costs more,
Of course. Of course it
on
does.
purpose.
Well, okay, all right. See,
if it's an accident, it happens. But on purpose, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Light tubes are expensive. So, yeah, like, do you think that part of the idea of, like, okay, taking this thing that you're doing with FIFA and everything, and going like, no, we can turn this into something bigger. We can monetize. We can turn this into a work thing. We can make this a career. Do you think that that's something that sort of moving into athletics at a young age puts into your brain where it's like, no, all this stuff.
Yes and no. And the reason why I say yes and no is because, yes, the reason why I think the way I think about everything that I do is because of the opportunities that were presented to me because of the fact that I was good at sports, right? So, yes, but in actuality, it's less about being introduced to sports at an early age, and it's more about dealing with the business of sports in the NFL and recognizing how to capitalize on an opportunity in order to monetize it.
Do you think that also puts you and put you with WWE in a unique and pre-WWE with a unique perspective on wrestling, where like you get that business part of it?
Absolutely, and I understand. It's like perfect example that I'll give you, Richard Sherman, probably going to the Hall of Fame. You know, arguably one of the best corners to ever do it. But if you look at his career stats, they're not that different from one of my best friends. His name is Brent Grimes, who is a 4-time NFL Pro Bowler. And he's on the FIFA Pro Club team, but nobody ever talks about Brent going to the Hall of Fame because when he played a good game, he just said, yeah, you know, we did a good thing. You know, and we're glad that the team could do our thing. But Richard Sherman said, don't you ever put no sorry receiver like Crabtree on me.
Right.
And now everybody's like, Richard Sherman's one of the best to ever do it. And Brent Grimes, whose stats are arguably the same, people are like, well, he played on the Dolphins and the Falcons. I don't know if he's going to go to the Hall of Fame.
Isn't that interesting that you'd think that type of thing is like, oh, that's just to impress the fans. That's just this other thing. But like,
no,
it affects the industry. It affects perception is everything.
It does. Perception is everything, and that's one of the things that Vince says to everybody in WWE is perception is reality. So like, when you look at Richard Sherman's career, it's not. Like it's he won a Super Bowl. That's the one big difference between his career and Brent's career. But at the same exact time, the real reason people think that their careers are so different isn't because of that Super Bowl. It's because Richard Sherman built this bigger than life personality. And mind you, I played with Richard Sherman on the Seahawks. We're cool. Like this is not no shady beef thing. Like when I was on Seattle, you'll see it. If you watch the Pro Bowl from 2015, you see him going around giving people like fake RKOs in the Pro Bowl. That's because me and him used to do that to each other in the facility in Seattle, where like if he was walking into a room and didn't see me coming, I'd jump around and catch him in an RKO. Like, so we would do that at practice. I got in trouble at practice one time for doing it because coaches thought we weren't paying attention, which I guess we weren't, but we knew what we were doing on that play anyway, so we really didn't have to. But yeah, so like, but that's what I'm saying. Like the marketability aspect of what you do changes with how you present yourself, and that's what wrestling is.
Did that click in for you in the NFL, or was that something that you picked up on in college? Or
honestly, I would say high school because when I was in high school, I was a big time recruit. I had 25 scholarship offers for football. So like I could have went to Notre Dame, I could have went to Florida State, I could have went to UCLA, could have went to Georgia Tech. I went to Maryland because I wanted to stay close to home. I wanted to represent where I was from. And Maryland's put more than enough guys in the NFL. So like clearly I was another one that they did. So like I knew that I could accomplish my dreams at the crib, and I knew that doing it at the crib would mean more for me down the road than if I, I could have went to Alabama and Auburn. Now, mind you, I tell people this was Saban early on in Saban's career. Alabama had the same record as Maryland the year I committed. All right.
Right.
Obviously, things have gone a different way since then.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe I should have went to Alabama, but at the end of the day, like I learned in high school when I would get articles written about me, like how much that would affect when coaches would reach out to me. So like coaches are allowed to call you once a week, right? Like, but like some coaches will call you when you're a high school athlete. Some coaches will call you every Tuesday at 2:00, right? And then some coaches will only call you when there's news about you, right?
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So like I started noticing how many more coaches called me after a new article came out or a new thing came out or a new thing I was doing became public. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And because of that, I was like, okay, so the power that the media has is massive.
Yeah.
And I've been exploiting that since. So
yeah, I mean, that's really obvious for anyone that's followed you on Twitter for any amount of time. Like, it's pretty clear.
Not just Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing because I think about this, especially with athletes. And, like, right when I was in high school, like, I was listening to Opie and Anthony and watching WWE all the time. And, like,
to be fair, I was watching WWE, but I was definitely not listening to Opie and Anthony.
I get it. But I say that to say these are things that, like, I know I'm a fan of and stuff, but the idea of me being in that world is still this thing where it's far away. Nobody in my life was like,
I feel you.
Oh, yeah, this is the path to take that. It was like, there are people over there that do this, and then I'm just a normal guy. Like, that took some time. But when you're in high school, you've got to realize, like, when you're getting recruited for colleges, it's not just, oh, cool, I'm going to go to college. Like, when you're a junior, senior in high school, you're like, oh, I might be able to get into the NFL realistically. Like, this is a real thing.
Literally, I would say as early as 8th grade in Maryland, the conference that I played in high school, it is a Catholic college conference. I mean, Catholic high school conference, and you can recruit to go to those schools. Like the rule is the student has to come to your campus first, but after they come visit your campus, you can recruit them from that point forward. So they would always throw these events to get athletes on campus, and then once they're on campus, they can recruit you. So I got recruited by so many different top tier, like DeMatha is one of the biggest schools in the country. I got recruited by them. I got recruited by St. John's, which is where Stephon Diggs went to high school. You know what I'm saying? I got recruited by Good Counsel. Stephon Diggs went to Good Counsel. I got recruited by St. John's, which is one of the biggest high schools in the country because Kevin Plank, the owner of Under Armour, went there. So they're like really big, right? So, but I ended up going to Gonzaga, which is a big school in DC.
Yeah.
And like in that process, I was like, all these big schools are getting me to try to play football and basketball. I was like, maybe I can do something with football or basketball. And at the time, because my dad to this day is a coach. He's coached basketball and football since before I was born. So like as a basketball coach, he has 300 wins as a head coach. As a football coach, he was the D-line coach for a state champion in 1994.
Wow.
So he's done everything that I did, you know? So he knew the right people to put me in contact with. He knew the right places for me to go, the right camps to go to. And that's why I was able to get so much traction in high school, because the way that I got most of my scholarship offers was me and my dad got in a car and drove to camps at Georgia Tech, at Wake Forest, at Virginia, at Maryland, at Notre Dame, and we went to all these different places, and I just let my play speak for itself. Like, clearly I was good. I played in the NFL for 5 years, so clearly I was a good D lineman. And I would just go to these camps, and at the camps, there'd be kids who already have scholarship offers from that school, and they're just at the camp because I'm here to represent, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I would find out, and mind you, power of the media, I would find out the night before, all right, who do they have offers? Like, who have they offered? And who's at the camp? And then if they had an O lineman that they had offered that was at the camp that next day, I only go against him. And I'm eating him for breakfast the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if he's already offered and I'm killing him, like, you got to give me an offer.
Yep.
And it worked like clockwork. That's how I got so many offers. So like I understood.
Was that something your dad told you, or was that something you just innately figured out?
I figured it out after my freshman year at Maryland. I went to Maryland's camp before my sophomore year. And they had a guy, his name's Steven St. John, who I ended up playing with at Maryland. And he was already offered by Maryland. And I knew that, and I went against him in one-on-ones, and I beat him a bunch of times. And then the next day, Coach Friedgen offered me, and I was like, wait a minute. Maybe I should do this everywhere that I go, right?
So when does NFL become like a realistic, like, I think I'm going to play professional football here? Like, is that something that you're having flashes of even back in high school, or is that something like after a few years in college, do you go, oh, I'm good at this level too? Like, this is a real thing.
Honestly, like I always wanted to play in the NFL, even in high school, and I knew I had the size for it because you can't teach size.
Right.
That in wrestling too.
Oh, trust me, I know.
You know, in wrestling too, you can't teach size. So like I knew that I'm 6'5", 300 right now. I'm 6'4". I'll say back then, when I was coming out of high school, I was 6'4", 320 pounds
In high school.
in high school, and I ran a 4.940, like,
Oh my
and
God.
I got a 30-inch vertical jump, and I did a broad jump of 9.4. Like, I'm a freak athlete.
Yeah.
And you see that with the things that I've done in the ring as well.
Yeah.
Not just what I've done on the football field. So, like, I knew that I had something special, but you never really know until you get to college.
Yeah.
And I started as a redshirt freshman on the D-line and was a ACC all freshman team and was honorable mention freshman All-American. And I was like, okay, I think I could really do this. Like, after my redshirt freshman year, which would be my second year in Maryland, I was like, okay, I could really do this. And from that point forward, I focused all my energy on making that happen. And then, my junior year, we had a coaching change, and when new coaches come in, they want to set a new standard, right?
Yeah.
So Randy Edsall comes in and decides that I'm not going to be the starter no more because that's just not what he's going to do. Well, halfway through the year, that was over, and the following year, I started the whole year. But because of that, like, I got a little tarnish on me because of, Randy Edsall went out of his way to try to make it seem like he wasn't being the military dictator of football teams, which everyone knows now is the case.
Yeah.
Because he's proven it over and over again everywhere he's been. But like, that cost me in getting drafted because after my sophomore year, I was one of the top prospects coming out if I would have left early after my sophomore year. And I was like, no, I'm going to get my degree, do the right thing, blah, 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 like an idiot. And I end up going undrafted. But like I said, you can't hide talent. So I went undrafted, but I made the team and I ended up playing 5 years. And you'd be shocked how many guys in the NFL that start or play major roles weren't drafted. It's like, bro, you have an entire multi-million-dollar department dedicated to scouting talent and for the draft, and yet you get some of your best players after the draft.
It goes back to the perception thing, right?
It's crazy.
Right.
It really is crazy because you got guys that'll go to, let's say you go to Alabama, and you could be the 8th best starter on the team at Alabama, but you started at Alabama.
Right.
So when you get to the NFL, they're like, he started at Alabama. Of course. We think and then you get there and you see, he's like, oh, and then first thing that every fan and he's a bust. Oh, he's not good. He's like, no, he's good. He's just not what you thought he was because of the talent he was surrounded at in college. But you got to realize it's like 3% of high school football players go to play football in college, not Division I football, just football. Like 3%. Of that 3%, like 0.01% make it to the NFL.
Right.
That siphon gets real small, and it ends up being like, I mean, yeah, you could be a freak athlete, right? Go to the wrong system, not be able to showcase it your first year as a rookie, and then you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's and then that's it.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
So you get it when you get to the NFL, did you have any sort of like, okay, after a few years, this is what I plan to do after? Because even best case scenario, it's like, I mean, I guess you could be Tom Brady and be there forever, but like probably not, right?
Honestly, I went undrafted, so every single day that I was on the team, I was like, I'm here another day. Like literally.
What a way to live, man.
It's
I mean, I
worse.
guess that prepares you for wrestling.
It does.
I was thinking about that when I was looking at like all the different teams you played for.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would imagine that getting let go from WWE, you're like, it sucks.
Yeah, but
I've been there.
On to the next.
I got released from that team. I got picked up by the other team. I got released from that. I got picked up by the other
People
team.
would love to say, well, you suck. You got released 9 times while you were in the NFL. I got signed 10 times, though.
That's that. Yeah, that's that like 13-time world champion, right? That's that 16-time Ric Flair. Like, yeah, well, I won it.
But I won.
That's what we count.
Yeah, because every time I won, that was another check. You feel what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah.
So, like, when the thing is, like, every day that you're in the NFL, when you're an undrafted, like, you're counting, thanking your lucky stars because, like, to the point that, like, we know the cutoff. We know during the season, Tuesdays at 4 p.m., if you on the roster, you get paid for the whole week. Look, even if you get cut at 4:01,
right?
You owe me. I need the whole week,
right?
So a lot of dudes will turn their phone off around 2 p.m. on Tuesday.
So
Like, oh, it's about 2:30. Let me go ahead. I knew a linebacker got hurt, so let me go ahead and turn my phone off real quick.
Yeah. No, I was in the shower. What time? 4:15. Yeah. Why? What
4:15?
did you call?
Oh, you got to cut me? Oh, yeah, that's cool. Don't worry about it. 4:15.
Yeah. I got a few days before I got to talk to anybody. Yeah. That's so funny. So when you were done with football, obviously, I think I think it's interesting with you because I feel like
I honestly stopped playing football before the league was done with me. Like,
right.
A lot of people don't know, like, when the reason I got into wrestling, I've been a wrestling fan my whole life, and I knew that I wanted to come to WWE my whole life, and I knew that because I played in the NFL, when I wanted to try out, I would get one. Right.
Plus 6'5", 300
also
doesn't hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like I knew that going in, I knew that I would get a trial, and I knew that I would get opportunity, and obviously I can promo my ass off. So like I knew that I would get hired. And the thing that got me was that like my buddy Mike Busey, the owner of the Sausage Castle, the first place I ever worked, Sausage Castle Wrestling.
Shout out.
210 days as the Sausage Castle Wrestling champ.
Oh, congrats on that, by the way.
Got that belt on 3 different national television shows. No big deal. No big deal. Nobody else on the indies is doing that, getting national TV
Bringing
gigs.
their titles to the... Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
That's another level.
Let's talk about it.
That's another... Matt Cardona. That's another level.
But like, I started there, right? And so I have my buddy's like, he does these weekend long parties and they're crazy events. And one of the events he does is a wrestling show. So he was like, yo, got the wrestling show this weekend. You want to come through? And I was like, yeah, cool. At the time, I had just been released by the Giants in the preseason and I'm still training to get back in the NFL. Like I'd already had workouts with the Browns and the Raiders, right? So I go to the party with Mike. He's like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to do a number 1 contender battle royal at the end. You're going to win and you're going to be the new number 1 contender. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. You know what I'm saying? That sounds good.
Which is, by the way, genius. That's such a wrestling move because it's like, we just need you for one show. We're making the number 1 contender. It's like, how's that going to work? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. One show, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah, we're going to need you for the you're the number 1 contender. We're going to need you for...
Yeah, exactly. Peak wrestling, right? So, it goes off, and it was a battle royal, and it was great, and we had a bunch of cool spots. And I posted.
Had you trained in wrestling at all?
I
hadn't learned a couple of spots.
I hadn't trained at all.
Wow.
I had been over his house and messed around in the ring a few times already with other people, but they weren't trained wrestlers, right? So like, all I knew was what I'd seen on TV. But the thing was, when after the match, I go up to the bunch of guys, and I'm like, oh, thanks, man, that was a lot of fun. And they're like, oh man, where do you work? And I was like, oh, no, man, I don't work. Like, I just did this for fun. It's my buddy's party. Like, it's my first match. And they were like, oh, man, where you been training? And I was like, nah, bro, I didn't train. Like, you're not getting it. This is my first time ever really doing this. Yeah. And they were like, wait, you just did all that we just put together and you've never trained and you've never had a match before? I was like, nah. They were like, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life because we know that you've tried to get back in the NFL, but you need to start focusing on wrestling. And I was like, damn. Like, it took someone from in the business telling me, yo, this is what you really need to be doing for me to be like, damn, this is what I really need to be doing. Like, I spend so much time playing football, but what I really want to do is wrestle.
Right.
So
dropping RKOs in the locker room anyway.
Anyway, I'm already doing it. Right. So like, I go and I really sit down and have a conversation with myself for the next week. And like 1 week later, I call Team 3D Academy, ran by the Dudleys. And Billy Gunn was training there at the time too. And John Cruz Serpentico was trained me there too. And Jay Rios and Dan and all these great guys trained me there, and I trained there with like Sawyer Rack and Mbadu, who's has been on AEW, and so many different people that have been on so many different big shows. And like I trained there, and after about 2 weeks, I was like, yeah, I got this for sure. Like, and that's no disrespect to professional wrestling or wrestlers in general. It's just like what I have to do in a wrestling match is way easier than what most wrestlers have to do.
Right.
Because I'm enormous. Right?
Right. And you ignite, like, you're aware of that. Again, like, you're aware of the business. It's like, you really don't have to do nearly as much.
No, like, if me and you had a match, right? If me and you booked a match.
Right.
And it was 10 minutes long. The first 8 minutes would be me throwing you all over the place. And the last 2 minutes would you be, he's finally gonna do it. You get it one time, and it's either over or I kick out, and then now it's over.
Right. Yeah. There's that many different ways. That's the way to do it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to wrestle like everybody else. And to me, you got to realize the stark contrast between football and wrestling there, because in football, I'm a lineman. Every play is guerrilla warfare. Every play could be your last play breathing on earth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then you transition into wrestling where it's like, yeah, I'll bump twice if I want, you know?
Right. And since you're a big guy, you can get away with not bumping because you could be, no, I'm the unbeatable big guy that never gets knocked off his feet. That's my gimmick.
Just kick my knee out and I'll take a knee and then give me another kick and I'll roll over, right?
You can even fall down extra slow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, like, you know, but that's the thing is that, like, when I started training, a lot of people don't know this, when I started training, the Giants, the Browns, and the Raiders all called me and were like, yo, we want to bring you in. And my agent, who I feel bad for now, like I don't feel bad because, you know, we've made good money together, but he had to tell them, like, yeah, no, he's actually really in on this wrestling now.
He's doing indie wrestling.
Literally, wrestling in high school gyms and stuff. And the Raiders are like, we need a nose guard. And I'm like, I don't really feel like coming to Oakland. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would have to imagine, too, right? Like, at that point, you've made some money in the NFL, so at least you can coast for a minute.
Yeah.
Right? And I would have to think that there is something refreshing about being like, I'm my own boss.
Scene. Yes.
I'm in a new scene. I'm doing something new that I'm good at.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Yes.
And I don't have 100 people and a national brand making sure that I behave a certain way and follow certain protocol.
And not even just that part of it. It's also like, and now, like, I don't have to sit on pins and needles with everything that I do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, every day that I go into the facility, when I'm, you know, they always say, last one in's the first one out. Like, when you're the new guy signed to the team, if somebody gets hurt and they need to sign somebody else for a different position, the last guy in is the first guy out. So, like, it's a tough way to live like that. You got to realize, like, in 2015, okay, I had been on the Dolphins for 3 years at that point, except for like a 3-month stint. Well, that's a perfect example. My rookie year, I ball out in the preseason, okay? And then the Dolphins try to stash me on their practice squad. And the Patriots, because Bill Belichick's greatest coach of all time, he pays attention to film. You know, he watches the film. He's like, not a chance. I want that guy. Right? So the Patriots signed me. I ended up going to the Patriots for 3 months. And then Bill puts me back down on the practice squad because injuries to linebackers. And the Dolphins were like, you thought so? And they pulled me right back. Right? So my first year, I moved from Miami to Walpole, Massachusetts. Right? And then back to Miami within the span of about 3 months.
Right.
Okay. Then the next year I'm on the Dolphins. And then the year after that, the first 10 weeks of the season, I'm on the Dolphins. Everything's going great. My best year of my career up to that point, you know, and nobody expected, because I got injured my second year, so people didn't know how I would come back from my injury, and I came back better than ever, right? So, like, everybody's excited. And then 3 linebackers got hurt in one game, and they're like, we're going to have to cut you, but we're going to put you on the practice squad. As soon as one of these linebackers comes back, you'll be back on the active roster. And I'm like, cool. The very next day, I'm literally dressed in my gear to go to to go to meetings, and they're like, yeah, Seattle claimed you off waivers, so now you live in Seattle. So literally overnight, across a diagonal route across the country, I now live in Seattle, Washington, and I finished the season out there that year. But it's like, that's lifestyle is tedious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And insane. And it's like there's no real structure or sense of like permanence.
No,
like this, it's just
ever.
This is what I'm doing today.
Correct.
And this is it. And that's what you do if you want to play football to make your money.
Yeah. Do you like money? If you like money, you'll suck it up. If you don't, you can leave, right?
So did you think it was interesting, or how did you feel? Because I feel like there's a perception amongst WWE fans that when you get signed to WWE and you start popping up. Obviously, you're on the A&E show first before you get to NXT, but people were aware that you were signed at least. Wrestling,
Yes.
Wrestling fans.
Any wrestling fan that's listening to this, yes.
Yeah, they're like Bill Belichick. We're all watching tape. We know who's in the Performance Center. We know who's there.
I saw the damn picture.
But I think a lot of people thought that you were another just person that the WWE found in the NFL and got to come to the Performance Center. I think there were a lot of people that didn't realize that not only that you're kind of a wrestling fan and a student of the game, but that you had this indie wrestling experience and that you had gotten into wrestling well before WWE had come calling.
Yeah, and people didn't know that, and people still to this day pretend that like WWE signed me off the NFL bench and was like, we don't need you to do anything. When in actuality, if I didn't go out of my way to get to WWE, I'd have never got there. Like the reason I got signed by WWE is the Page movie. The Page movie that came out. Okay. Movie came out. Obviously, I live in Orlando. Yeah. I literally bought, so after about 4 years in the NFL, I was like, I got enough money to buy a house. Where do I want to buy a house? And I wanted to stay in Florida. And I was like, the next thing I do is definitely going to be WWE. So why not just buy a house in Orlando?
Wow.
So I bought a house in Orlando. Yeah. And I lived there for 2 years before I ever even started wrestling.
That's called manifesting, kids.
Yes,
that's when people say manifesting.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what it is.
That's exactly what it is. So like I bought the house and I was, and the funny thing is like I was ingratiating myself in the wrestling world in Orlando. Like I had Sasha Banks over for 4th of July one day. I had, because I played college football with Mojo Rawley. So he was my in. And a lot of people I met through him, like Baron Corbin, I'm still cool with till today.
And and that's another thing where like having the NFL in your background helps like kind of lubricate socially.
Yes,
you know what I
yes.
mean? Like opens
like,
those doors.
They're like, oh, we're going to go hang out at a wrestling fan's house? It's like, I don't want to do that. He's like, well, he played in the NFL. I was like, oh, well, I mean, how bad can he be? Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I had these doors open up to me, and one of the people that Mojo introduced me to was named Justin Leslie, and Justin did social media for NXT. So me and him became very good friends and still are to this day. And he was like, yo, I got an extra ticket to the private NXT screening of the Page movie. Do you want to go? And at this point, I had already started wrestling. And I was like, yeah, for sure. But I didn't go with the intention of being like, I'm going to find somebody to sign me tonight. I went to watch the movie because I wanted to see the movie. Right? Yeah. And so I went, and Matt Bloom walks in the room. And he's like, yo, go talk to Bloom. And I go talk to Bloom, and I say, tell him who I am, tell him, who I played for, tell him I've already started training at Team 3D and all these different things. He's like, send me an email tomorrow. We'll And the funny thing was, like, I already had a tryout lined up for later that year in July. And this was March, right? So then he hits me back. I email him at like 10 a.m. the next day, and at 11 a.m. he emails me back and says, your tryout's in April, so I'll see you there, right? So
you got accelerated.
Yeah, I got put on the accelerated path. And then obviously I killed the tryout, got signed, and the promo, the thing was like, whenever I talked to anybody about my tryout, like anybody there, I always would ask the question. I'd be like, what was it that got me signed? Like, obviously the size and the pedigree of being in the NFL.
It's good that you even ask that question,
yes,
because it's like that way you know what people are noticing.
Exactly, because I've got other people try out since, so I know what to tell them to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, and I was like, what was it that got me signed? And they were like, it was your promo. It was like,
wow.
It was like nobody else promo was close. He was like, yeah, you were big, yeah, you were athletic, but a lot of dudes come in here big and athletic. It was like, it was your promo. And the funny thing is, like, I wrote that promo, like, I want to say like 2 years earlier.
Wow.
Knowing that I was eventually going to, because I watched all the documentaries of the tryouts and Tough Enough.
Tough Enough, that's what I was going to say.
I watched them, so I knew that you need a 60-second promo that tells who you are and why you're different and better than everybody else.
Yeah.
So I had that promo memorized for literally years.
That's so funny.
So when I did it,
I mean, if you're going to go ahead and buy the house, you better have a promo memorized.
You know what I'm saying? I bought the house, might as well come up with 60 seconds to sell it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but it was funny because like I did it and they were like, yeah, the promo, man, that's what it was. It was a promo. And I was like, that's when I knew. I was like, okay. Well, I always knew I was good at promos because I make rap music. And I understand that rap music and wrestling are very similar. Yeah. Which is why you got guys like Offset rapping about Ric Flair. You know what I'm saying? That's why Bad Bunny raps about every wrestler under the sun. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a correlation between the braggadocious bravado that you have to have as a rapper that translates to wrestling.
And I think the character aspect of it too. It's like that guy's name is not Bad Bunny.
No.
But he still like lives this life. Like
Yeah.
he is Bad Bunny.
Exactly.
Like Booker T is Booker T.
Yes,
like, you know, when you are Top Dollar, like you are walking around as Top Dollar.
Yes.
Like there is no like cutoff. It's
No.
not Bryan Cranston in
No.
Breaking Bad, and when he's on the set, he's Walter White, and when he's at home, it's
No.
not a thing in wrestling.
No.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, especially around the PC, like I learned that early at my tryout. It's because like I would say, because like it's 3 days. Back then it was 3 days. Now I think it's like 2 or maybe even 1. And at my tryout, you know, they have you announce, because they give everybody a wristband with your number on it, and you're supposed to. It's just like, you know, wrestling is how good are you at following directions? How good are you at memorizing things to do? Right. Yeah. So, like, they give you a wristband with your number on it, and my number was 9, and they were like, it goes alphabetical order, and they're like, every time you come in the ring, wipe your feet, raise your hand, say your number, say your name, and then do your rolls.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would say 9, AJ Francis, do my rolls, get out the ring. Like, and then 10 would go, and it would go like that. And it was like 40 people at the tryout. And like Reginald was at that tryout.
Nice.
EJ and Duca was at that tryout. Jade Cargill was at that tryout.
Wow.
So there was a lot of star power in that room.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a lot of Evilise was at that tryout.
Wow.
So there was a lot of star power in that tryout. It's really funny to look back. Ivy Nile is her name.
Yeah.
From Diamond Mine, she was at that tryout.
I love looking at that stuff. Like I love like not only like old Tough Enough tapes, like not only like watching the Tough Enough show, but like those audition classes. Yeah. When you look at the whole field and you're like,
holy
that. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
can see how many people were
so
there
like,
at that time.
So like I did that, and then I go and do the promo. And I'll do the promo for you now. It goes, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Frank, and if you didn't know, now you know. Look, I'm standing here fly as an eagle's eye, and I ain't got a lot of time. See, time is money, and it ain't funny to waste my money. See, I'm not from this PG era. I'm from the G era. I'm from where you go get it or you get gone. I'm from where your main goal is to grab gold and then at the after party be with the girls guzzling goose. See, I'm great. I'm the truth. But I got haters. There'll always be haters. That's the way it is. Hater brothers marry hater sisters and have hater kids. The difference is I'm the shut your mouth. You're looking at the new OG, the GOAT rap god, the most shady Frankie baby. And everybody was like, holy shit. Right? The first thing I did after was look at William Regal, and William Regal was like, and that's what I knew that I was on something.
Now, number one, it shows how strong it is because, like, literally years later, and your character on television is that guy who did the promo. But also,
and the same lines.
That's what I was gonna say. The same lines, and I'm sure, like I'm picking up every reference. That's in there. And I hear Jay-Z and Biggie and Kanye and
exactly.
But it's like,
but
when you're dealing with people who don't know those references, you're a genius.
And that's why it's so big, because like I threw Biggie lyrics in there, I threw Jay-Z lyrics in there, I threw Kanye lyrics in there, and if you don't know that, you're like, wow, that's incredible.
What are you, a poet?
Yes, but if you do know that, you're like, I love this guy.
Yes, 100%, 100%. Yeah, I think that's why Hit Row. It's one of the reasons the authenticity of Hit Row, I think, is what really.
The thing that made it authentic was that they didn't do nothing for us. Like when our first day there, they wrote the first day we were going to do that promo we did in the ring.
Are you talking about the NXT or SmackDown?
The NXT promo that we were in all red and we debuted, and I said, they called me Top Dollar from the NFL, the NXT, all that promo. When they had an idea for, like, they wrote up for us to do a promo, and Triple H was like, nah, y'all don't write for them.
Wow.
Let them handle that, because we can't tell them how to sound to make this look real. And that's what was so cool about doing that, is because, like, even down to, like, I would be like, for example, I watch a lot of battle rap. I got a song coming out with Arsenal the Rebel, who's one of a battle rap legend, right? So, like, anytime you watch a battle rap, it's always shot from that underneath angle, right?
Yep.
And I'm gonna be shot at the underneath angle anyway because I'm big, and that's how WWE does it, right? When you're big, they're like,
Look
he's
even
huge.
bigger. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I was like, nah, everybody got to be shot like that. Even Swerve sitting down in a chair.
Yeah.
Everybody got to be shot like that because that's the design. That's the look we going for. That street, underground rap league, like urban demographic. Like that's what we're going for.
Well,
so when people see it, like I said, if you don't know why we're doing it, you're like, damn, there's something different about what they do. That's so cool. But if you do, just burped mid-word. If you do, you're like, oh my, I love this.
But that's why it looks so cool is because you can't, even if you don't know enough to know whether it's authentic or not, authenticity reigns through. Like there's something when it's inauthentic or when it's designed by somebody else or when you're portraying sort of this thing that like you know exists but you don't really know what it is. Like people can tell. Yeah. Even if they don't know exactly how. Like that's a thing that people can tell. And I'm pretty big on stuff that's not represented in wrestling that should be. I think that wrestling, when it's at its best, is a reflection of the world that it exists in. Yes. And I think that there's a lot of different cultures that are just not there right now. And that's why one of the reasons why I was such a fan of Hit Row, because it was like, yes, this is speaking to a thing that's not being spoken to in wrestling.
This is authentic hip hop culture. And the coolest thing about Hit Row, it was so authentic that we had different aspects of hip hop culture. I'm doing the street, gutter, grimy, let's say Griselda style of character within the hip hop faction. Then you got Tahuti's doing the pretty boy side of I'm a fashionista. I'm you know what I'm saying, ASAP Rocky. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what Tahuti's doing. And then Swerve's giving you the backpack, Kendrick Lamar,
Travis
Scott kind of vibe, skateboard shoes, different vibe. And then Brianna's giving you the sexy girl style of hip hop that is so prevalent in today's hip hop game. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, now more than ever.
Now more than ever, right?
Like with female MCs, not just like decoration.
Like this, like just, Lil Kim broke through, but like there's a lot of female rappers that didn't back then. Like now there's a lot of female rappers in the game. So like doing numbers. So like we were able to show different subsects of that unrepresented culture at the same time. And that was the coolest thing to me, is because we weren't just representing Black culture, we weren't just representing hip hop culture, but we were getting distinct aspects of it and that's what I love so much about what we did.
Because there's plenty of times where they've gone like, no, we're gonna have a rapper. He's a rapper. And it's like, what does that mean? Like what is that? Like that's like saying, well, he's a wrestler. Like what does that mean? There's this large spectrum that you're just kind of throwing a dart at like blindly. Like, no, what is it? You haven't narrowed it down.
And the other thing that I love most about Hit Row was the fact that none of us needed it. Like all four of us can talk, all four of us can work, right? All four of us could have done solo things and still got over and doing our different things. All four of us were more than capable to carry a storyline by ourselves. That's what made Hit Row so dope, was the fact that like most factions, the reason they're a faction is because everybody can't do everything. And there's one guy who's responsible for getting everybody over with his mic work. And then there's other guys who are killers in the ring and they can do anything in the ring that you need to be done. And we had 4 people that could do all of that. And that was the coolest thing to me, was the fact that like, that's why I think Hit Row resonated and it got over so fast, because it was like, yo, this isn't 4 people coming together. This is 4 stars coming together.
Yeah, and it didn't necessarily either. Like, there are a lot of times when a faction like that is built where it's clearly like, okay, this is designed to push one person forward and the other 3 eventually would just drift away so we can make this person a star. But like, I mean, depending, like night by night, it was like, who's the guy tonight?
And that was the thing that we would talk about in Hit Row, is like, people would think that Swerve, like, even though Swerve would go on interviews and I would go on interviews and be like, yo, there's no leader in Hit Row. We are 4 stars working together in unison. There's no leader. Swerve is the North American champion, so right now he's the front. This is my middle finger being the front. This is Swerve. He's the North American champion. So we're going to run our storylines through the fact that he's North American champion. But as soon as they were like, all right, now we want to get the girls involved, Swerve became a background guy just like us. And then it was me and there was Brianna in the front doing it, you know what I'm saying? And then we got to SmackDown, like the internet erupted because people were like, why are they making AJ the front man in Hit Row? And I'm like, first of all, I'm not. I keep telling y'all I'm not. We keep telling y'all there's no front man. But secondly, like, I came with the idea. Like from before I was in WWE, like I formulated the plan. So like, why don't I get to reap the rewards of what I came up with? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when we made the song, we wrote it. I wrote the song in my house. We recorded it in my house. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you didn't know, now you know. That me, like.
Well, Biggie, but you via Biggie.
Stealing it from Biggie. I was the first, I was the best thief, right?
Well, look, I got to get you out of here because you got a flight to catch, but I could talk to you for another hour about this stuff, so you have to come back. But you are getting the crew back together for not only Maryland Championship Wrestling, but you'll be part of the collective
at GCW
WrestleMania weekend in Dallas. I think there's going to be lots more big things coming, and I would not be shocked at all to see Hit Row in some way, shape, or form, or members of Hit Row back in WWE at some point. You know, I think it's all very possible.
And the thing is, anybody listening is like, we don't have a. There's this make-believe narrative. I was reading an article. I was reading people talk about how me and Swerve had beef with each other while me and Swerve were standing next to each other at my homegirl's Super Bowl party.
It's insane. It's insane. It's insane.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, where can people find you if they don't know already? I'm sure they know.
You can follow me on all social media at AJ Francis 410. That's Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, everything AJ Francis 410. You can go to my website and get. Oh, I'm glad you reminded me. Just for you, limited edition.
Whoa, well, man.
The Reggae Frank shirts, you know what I'm saying?
How are people going to tell us apart?
You know, exactly. We're both bald with beards.
Yeah.
People say I look
about
like Rick
the same
Ross.
Size.
You know
yeah,
so,
me too.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I look just as much like Rick Ross as I look like you. So that makes sense, right? But, you know, I wanted to make sure you get that. And
that's amazing.
You know, you can get these T-shirts on my website, ajfrancis.me. And all my other merch will be on there too. So, you know, it's just, I'm really looking forward to WrestleMania weekend, and I'm looking forward to getting back out there. The good thing is like, if you see me at a show, just know that somebody at that show is a good friend of mine, because I'm not just doing anybody's show. I've turned down multiple opportunities to do people's shows. And if you see me at a show, it's because I want to be there.
That's fantastic, man. Well, that's good news. That means, does that apply to shows? Like,
bingo.
Boom. Look at me.
Bingo.
Look at me.
I could have just went to the airport.
Easily. Well, let's get you to the airport. I hope you don't miss your flight. I'll feel really bad. Thank you so much for making the time, man.
Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it.